Support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum. Located in Jennings City Hall, the museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is a historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana. Additional support provided by the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting and viewers like you.
The bottom line for people is that you need to be where you want to be and in the posture you want to be by dark on Saturday.
Tropical Storm Nate is forecast to hit Louisiana as a hurricane this weekend. The storm is already blamed for the deaths of 22 people in Central America. Hi, everyone. I'm Andre Morrow. Right now on the state we're in, we're dealing with the threat of an October hurricane. Tropical Storm Nate is moving rapidly into the Gulf of Mexico and expected to strengthen as it approaches Louisiana and the central Gulf Coast. Nate's forecast to become a Cat 1 storm, possibly stronger by landfall. The impending arrival of Nate tops this week's headlines. Already, much of southeast Louisiana is under a hurricane and storm surge watch. The watches are up from Morgan City to the Alabama-Florida border and include Grand Isle and Metro New Orleans. By Saturday night, we could begin feeling hurricane conditions. Grand Isle issued a voluntary evacuation order Thursday, with schools closed until Tuesday. Governor John Bel Edwards has proclaimed a state of emergency for all of Louisiana.
Everyone in South Louisiana should begin preparing for this storm now. We've had a number of threats this hurricane season, and we have been blessed when Harvey went left and Irma went right. That is not what we anticipate out of Nate.
This week, the 2017 Nobel Prize in Physics was awarded to the pioneering LSU researchers at the Livingston Parish-based Gravitational Wave Observatory, LIGO. The facility made international headlines 2 years ago and opened a new window into the cosmos when scientists recorded the sound of two black holes colliding more than 1 billion light years away. It sent out gravitational waves, just as Albert Einstein predicted in 1915 in his theory of relativity. Election Day is October 14th, and we have the latest statewide poll. It forecasts a runoff in the state treasurer's race between Democrat Derek Edwards and Republican Angel Davis. JMC Analytics surveyed responses from 1,000 registered voters. Their findings have Edwards leading Davis by 6 points, 27 to 21%, and shows 20% of voters still undecided. The three candidates in the race for Public Service Commissioner this week spoke at the Baton Rouge Press Club. Damon Baldone is currently serving as interim commissioner. Lennar Whitney is the current national committee woman for the Republican Party of Louisiana. Craig Green is a doctor and son of former state senator Tom Green. Their chief duties involve the regulation of investor-owned public utilities and telecommunication services.
You know what I'm really tired of? I'm tired of celebrating the fact that we beat Mississippi for not being 50th in so many categories. Because I just think we can do so much better.
What I actually stand for is the state of Louisiana. I'd like to be a full-time public service commissioner. I'm going to dedicate myself to this job to be the best public service commissioner I can.
I have the most qualifications. I have a 17-year track record. You can see my record that I'm honest, hardworking public servant, and I'm honored to continue to do that for the rest of this term for this Public Service Commission.
Those makeshift memorials have cropped up in Las Vegas, again following the mass shooting Sunday night on the Las Vegas Strip. It's once again turned the nation's attention to the one common denominator in these American tragedies: guns. At least 59 dead, more than 500 injured, far more questions than answers. With me, though, to discuss the aftermath, EBR Metro Council member, now in her third term, Tara Wicker, and former Baton Rouge Police Chief Jeff LaDuff. Thank you so much for being here. I want to ask you, first of all, if you had the power to do something to keep these killings from happening over and over, what would you do?
So, wow, that's an interesting question, and I think I'd have to answer it sort of in twofold. ideally, supernatural power.
Yeah.
The ability to be able to just wave the magic wand definitely would be, I think, to deal with people's hearts and help people understand the power of coming together, the power of loving one another in spite of our differences. And secondly, just eliminating color altogether as a factor. And then just more realistically, I think some of what is happening, but in a more expedient format, is the ability to bring the community together, to have conversations about what those issues are, where the gaps are, where are we missing it, and then work on policy recommendations and real-time issues to fill those gaps.
All right, Jeff, former police chief, now in a security business, which I'll ask you about in a moment, but what would you do?
You know, for me, it's going to be a little different.
Yeah.
It's going to be that training. I think if you look at stats, the last time a child died in a school fire in this country was 1958.
Okay.
And that's because of the technology and the training. We teach our kids how to react to a fire. We teach them how to, when they hear that alarm go off or they see those lights flashing, they run and they have a designated spot to go to. With us, I think it's training. In each one of these situations, as they dig down and this investigation unfolds, there was something unusual that happened. Something. There's going to be somebody in Las Vegas who said, I saw this gigantic suitcase like I'd never seen before.
Right.
You know, in Orlando, the guy came in and left in Aurora. He went out the exit and came back in. He went out the exit and came back in. And then he started shooting people. When we see the unusual, we have to start reacting. But first we have to train.
And that's part of the training.
It's part of the
if
training.
you see something,
Say something.
Say something.
Exactly it.
There is pushback, of course, as you would expect, about changing the gun laws. No, we cannot change the gun laws. What can we do? Jeff?
Be responsible with our weapons. I'm a gun owner. I'm a Second Amendment guy. You know, living in law enforcement all those years, I grew up, I raised my child in the house. It was part of the tools that I went to work with every day. I couldn't leave it in my car, but I was responsible with my weapon. I'm a recreational shooter. I'm not gonna go out and hurt anybody. And
This man had an unbelievable amount of ammo.
He bought over
The types of weapons.
37 weapons in 12 months, 9 months, or something like that, I read.
Do we need those types of weapons? Do those need to be out there? Nevada has some of the looser gun laws.
They do.
I'm not really sure that if you confiscate all the guns or take certain guns away, that's really at the end of the day going to solve the problem.
Right.
I really believe that regardless if something is in someone's heart to hurt someone, whether that's available or not, I think that's they have the ability to do that.
But
So
are you saying then that training somehow would keep that something? It wouldn't change their heart.
No.
It's not going to change their heart, but what it would do is address those people around that person. Look, this guy moves into a secluded neighborhood, a $300,000 house, and the first thing he does is build this ungodly wall that even the neighbors tried to
That should
have.
be a sign.
Yeah, that's a sign. Something is going on. We need to communicate, get our lawmakers involved, get law enforcement involved, and find out the root cause of that. I mean, this may have been able to be stopped long ago.
I want to mention something. You're in a security business now, a safety training business. If you can explain that briefly, what that is exactly.
We have the nation's first pull tab, alert, and mass notification system. What we have is a blue box. I've been saying for years, I wish I could put a policeman in every building.
So this is similar to like
it's
on
the
a
same
fire on the wall,
shape,
pull for
same
fire,
look.
but it says police.
It says police. And what it does, our box does something for law enforcement that the fire box doesn't do for police. When you press a red box for fire, it goes to a monitoring company who then calls 911 and says there's a fire at this building.
Okay.
Ours connect with law enforcement. When that box is activated, 911 gets a call, but we also send a text message or an email straight to law enforcement, and they get something that they can use. They get a diagram of the building, they'll know exactly where the incident started occurring, and most importantly,
So there's a lot of advance with this
they get to
system.
see the video.
Okay.
We build them a temporary portal.
We need to bring
into
you
the
back and
videos.
talk more about that at some point. Tara,
Technology.
Baton Rouge is having a tough year
Yes, it
following
is.
a year ago our own ambush style killing.
Yes.
As a council member,
How do you address this?
You know, I think, again, it goes back to us being real about the issues that we have as a community. I don't think that we can any longer hide the fact that we have real issues. We have community issues. We have economic issues. We have training issues. We have
and I say Baton Rouge,
policy
it's Louisiana.
issues.
It's
us
Louisiana.
in general.
Shreveport.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
You are,
I'm married to a former state trooper, so I understand the idea of being able to be responsible with your guns. But also, we have to also have an understanding of what our personal responsibilities are as citizens. Having that communication, having that dialogue. And I think just being okay with when we identify that there are issues and there are gaps that exist in policies that we've had for years and years. It's not just okay to say, well, we've done it that way for so long.
Agreed.
And it's okay. Those things just really need to change.
Okay. We could talk for a long, long time,
Yes.
but our time's up right now. Thank you both so much.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
us.
It's a
Great to see
pleasure.
you. Now, 1 week after Baton Rouge, crime hit a new high mark with 5 shootings in 2 hours. A host of law enforcement leaders announced the creation of a strike force. It will target illegal guns, domestic violence, and drug crimes, which authorities say contribute to a sky-high homicide rate.
The results will not come overnight. This is a long-term effort designed to bring maximum results over the long haul. We intend to seek immediate detention of those arrested and severe sentences for those convicted. There is no parole in the federal system, and sentences can often be served in federal prisons across the country. The first principle of law enforcement is deterrence. That is what we seek. Filling prisons is not our goal. Our goal is to prevent crime.
The NRA on Thursday took a rare step involving gun controls when the group endorsed tighter restrictions on devices that allow a rifle to fire bullets as fast as a machine gun. 12 of the rifles used by the Las Vegas gunmen were outfitted with bump stocks. That's a device that allows a semi-automatic rifle to fire hundreds of rounds per minute. It explains how the gunmen fired into the concert crowd so quickly. A look at the recent attempts to overhaul health care now. In June, Senator Bill Cassidy sponsored a bill that would have allowed health savings account funds to cover membership in direct primary care clinics. So what is direct primary care, and could it pose an alternative to rising health care costs?
Heather Watson is seeing Dr. Landon Roussel for the first time today. The visit with Roussel, a physician who runs direct primary care clinics in Lutcher and Baton Rouge, will last about an hour. Heather's sister is a patient of Roussel's and highly recommended him.
She didn't feel like she's rushed in and out, and that she didn't feel like, this is a doctor that doesn't really know her and speaks to her for a few minutes every so often.
Heather's sister decided to join the Communitas clinic due to rising insurance premiums and high out-of-pocket expenses.
So I'm in the same boat. I'm paying about $345 a month, yet my out-of-pocket is like $6,500, $6,800, something like that. So I've not seen hardly anything except a small discount on every doctor I've gone to.
Physicians like Roussel that practice direct primary care, or DPC, don't accept insurance. Instead, patients pay for care through a membership plan.
So our clinic membership is based on age. The lowest level is about $40 a month, and the highest level is about $70 a month, and that's on a recurring basis. So we don't bill on a fee-for-service basis.
Patients have Roussel's cell phone and email address to schedule appointments whenever needed, often for the same or next day. House calls are offered, and office waiting times are essentially non-existent.
This is not urgent care where we're just seeing you for your sniffles or pink eye, which that's certainly a legitimate medical need. We're doing comprehensive care, so we're coordinating between specialists or even between hospitals. And that's the benefit of having direct primary care is you have a physician who knows you, time with you, and comprehensive care at a transparent and I believe affordable price.
The theory behind DPC is that easier access to a personal doctor allows patients to receive higher quality care, thereby reducing the need for higher price specialists or hospitalization. The DPC model also provides benefits to the physician.
When you have an insurance claim, you typically have to wait 15 to 30 days to get payment, and about 20 to 30% of claims are denied. So how can you build a sustainable business when you're unsure about the revenue flow?
Currently, Roussel has a roster of 120 patients, but that's about to double due to employer contracts. Maria Victoria Garcia Coy owns a mini storage business in Laplace. Through Communitas, she's been able to provide health care for her employees.
we're a small Family business, and I wish I could afford health care or a health care policy, but I can't. I just know the bottom line. So I'm able to do the employer contribution for this. So I pay monthly for my employees to be able to use the primary care. It costs them nothing to go. They don't have a copay. They don't have any of that. They can reach Doc Landon at any time, and they go right there to Lutcher. And that has been wonderful.
Kurt Wagner is an insurance agent and new Communitas patient. He finds the DPC model particularly helpful for patients that must see a doctor monthly.
When you have a high deductible plan, it gives them access to a doctor without having to come out of pocket the full amount. A need to have Adderall, that's something that a doctor needs to see them every month to write that script, and that helps out when they manage it, especially for younger patients.
Under the Affordable Care Act, individuals still must have some type of insurance coverage, so the savings of DPC should be explored on a case-by-case basis, Wagner says.
But if you're expecting to go to the doctor probably more than 3 to 4 times a year, then I would heavily look at this.
Michael Berto is an economist with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Louisiana. He says any model that keeps primary care providers in the marketplace is good. His concerns with DPC have to do with continuity of care.
We believe that the most effective way to get health care is to be connected from primary care through specialists, through hospital to rehab, and all the way back home electronically and with other types of liaisons. And the evidence is pretty clear that when medical providers are connected, outcomes are better, quality is better, safety is better.
Another concern of the DPC model is that it could intensify the nation's primary care provider shortages, since DPC clinics see much fewer patients. 81% of Louisiana is federally designated as a health professional shortage area for primary care. But Roussel thinks the DPC model will boost the number of medical students choosing primary care as a specialty, and he's received positive feedback when speaking to them.
And the reason that they are interested in it because they want to do primary care. That's what a lot of medical students want to do, but they don't see it feasible from a financial or practical standpoint because the system is so it makes it so hard for them to do primary care. That's how this can change the system.
Roussel plans to add an OBGYN to his staff and soon will begin dispensing medicine.
You see markups that are 100%, 200% with traditional pharmacies. When we're able to mark it up, 15, 20% to cover our costs, that passes that savings back on to our patients and allows them to get not only affordable medications, but to not have to go to a pharmacy and wait to get them.
As of 2017, nearly 3% of family physicians nationwide operate DPC practices. In Louisiana, there are currently 9 DPC providers. Berto supports these numbers growing with one caveat.
Primary care is a big marketplace, and there's room for a lot of different business models, no doubt about it. We just want to make sure that we're doing the things that maximize the patient's ability to get a good outcome, to enjoy his quality of life.
That's LPB's Kevin Gautreaux reporting for us. Remember, you can learn more about direct primary care by visiting their Care Coalition website at ladpcc.com. State ag officials are paying close attention to the rewrite of the Farm Bill. LPB's Kelly Spires reports from Rayville about what farmers say they need.
Every commodity presents its unique challenges, but the dairy industry has been especially hard hit. There are only a tenth of the dairy farms in Louisiana as there were 30 years ago. Eugene Robertson is a dairy farmer.
All the Southeast is suffering at some point on kind of the weather, the humidity we have. I mean, when you get on up into, we'll just say Tennessee, our line across there down, it's just a different monster, so to speak. And our weather, other people now on up in the northern part of the country, they got temperatures down and low, And yesterday mine was 94 and humidity high.
That's just some of what the congressman heard last week. There were also representatives from corn, soybean, sugarcane, and other commodities. Something everyone is concerned about, disaster recovery. Louisiana Farm Bureau's Ronnie Anderson.
But it is really important to us to get a better safety net because we've been hammered with weather, with rains, with floods, with wind damage from hurricanes, and You know, it's something that right at this point in time, our crop insurance program, that's the national crop insurance, is not really adequate, and it's not set up to manage the needs of Louisiana.
Mike Strain, the state's agriculture chief, was also present. Strain has a leadership role in the National Association of State Departments of Agriculture. Along with Abraham's seat on the House Agriculture Committee, that means Louisiana has the potential to have a lot of influence on the Farm Bill draft.
I think we're in the best position we've ever been, and we're going to work very, very hard so that we can get the best bill we've ever had.
Strain says passing the bill will be a year-long process and that education will be a big part of the effort.
There are many people simply do not understand what the Farm Bill means. And remember this, the natural resource-based industries, of which agriculture is the largest, are the foundations of the economy.
Kelly, thank you for that. Now, Kelly also spoke with Congressman Ralph Abraham via Skype this week. He's getting a first look at the bill.
Congressman, last week you met with farmers for a listening session in Rayville about the 2018 Farm Bill. What did you hear from them?
A lot. We had leaders of the industry. We had Commissioner Mike Strain from our wonderful state of Louisiana as our Commissioner of Agriculture there. 3 different panels, 3, I guess, separate but very unified topics that we discussed, debated. I learned a lot. I, as you know, am actively farming with my son-in-law on my farm and thought I knew a lot, which hopefully I do, but that listening session educated even me.
Of course, every commodity has their own issues, but what are some of the things you heard about individual commodities that are coming out of Louisiana? What specifically needs help and how?
In the 2014 Farm Bill, cotton really got left out. So we heard from cotton, and I've heard up in D.C. also from the National Cotton Council as how important it is to bring cotton into this 2018 Farm Bill. So cotton needs to be brought in. It was left out pretty much so in the 2014 bill. Rice, soybeans, corn, we heard from them all. We even heard from the vegetable farmers, those that have small stakes in this Farm Bill. Some things want to be kept by these different entities. Some things need to be changed. We were taking copious notes, and again, we are having listening sessions. We're having committee meetings up here in D.C. also. So as we write this bill, all this will come hopefully to fruition, and we'll get a good bill out.
I've heard complaints about disaster insurance and hoping to get disaster recovery to be more of a figure in the Farm Bill in 2018. Do you have any comments on disaster recovery?
You bet I do. Certainly in Congress, we need to be more proactive on disaster assistance than reactive. And we have had those discussions. We'll continue to have them. But our farmers have to have not only that safety net, they have to have the safety net of crop insurance. We know that. And it is in place, again, in most commodities. But again, there are some that need to be shored up. What we've got to do with Mike Conway as our chairman, certainly with all of us that have active stakes and understand what it means to be a farmer, rancher, whatever in the agricultural sector, we want to bring this to bear in the 2018 Farm Bill.
And Congressman, I'd like to back up for a second. What exactly does the Farm Bill do, and why is it important to farmers?
Well, let's go back to the 2014 Farm Bill. It was probably written at the worst time because commodity prices were high. And everybody thought that they were going to last forever. As we all know, they never do. The purpose of the Farm Bill is to give the safety net to those in the agricultural sector. Again, if you've got commodity prices that are outstanding and out the roof, Farm Bills really don't have much of a play other than on the SNAP end. But on the agricultural end, when commodity prices are low, where we need to improve our exports to countries to take our farm goods, the Farm Bill is critical as a safety net to those in agriculture.
It's the Farm Bill of 2018. Folks viewing at home might think that 2018 is a long way away. Why start listening sessions now?
It's a complex document that incorporates all these commodities that we've just talked about and a lot more. It covers aquaculture, cattle ranching, forestry, you name it. If it's in the dirt, if it walks on this earth, it is generally covered under the Farm Bill. And it is that important. As I've said numerous times, our agricultural people are our thin green line. They are our national security. They are our economic security. And without them, we fail as a nation. And we cannot allow that to happen. The Farm Bill hopefully prevents that from happening in very tough times.
All right, well, thank you very much for joining us, Congressman. Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
No, just know that we're working. I hope that, and I really do believe that the 2018 Farm Bill will be on target, on time. So we're working hard to make that happen.
All right, thanks so much.
Thank you.
The Red River and Shreveport. And in Shreveport tonight and all weekend, the Louisiana Prize Film Festival. It's now 6 years old. It invites filmmakers from across the country to enter short films. And they also have the chance to win $50,000. It is one of the biggest cash prizes for a short film in the world. And that, everyone, is our show for this week. Remember, you can watch LPB on demand on your phone or tablet with our LPB Anywhere app. The download is free from your app store, and it's also where you can catch LPB news and public affairs shows, as well as other Louisiana programs that you've come to enjoy over the years. And please like us on Facebook as well. For everyone at Louisiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Andre Morrow. Thanks for watching. Until next time, that's the state we're in.
Check us out on Facebook and Twitter, and visit lpb.org, where you can view more stories and leave us a comment. This program is available on DVD. Support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum. Located in Jennings City Hall, the museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is a historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana. Additional support provided by the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting and viewers like you.